is earth science and why do we study it? Well, the why is an easy question to answer because Earth is the only place we know of where life flourishes. There might be bacteria on Mars or in the icy dark oceans of Europa. But Earth is the only place we know of where there is life in abundance. The reason Earth is full of life has to do with 4 spheres. The atmosphere is all of the air surrounding our planet. The lithosphere is the rocks, the crust of our planet. The hydrosphere is the water on, under, and above the surface of the Earth. The biosphere includes all of the living things on our planet. Earth science is the study of these 4 spheres and how they interact and depend on each other. In this course, we are going to dive into these spheres, especially the atmosphere, the lithosphere, and the hydrosphere, and explore just why and how our planet is such an incredible place for life to exist. I'm Science Mom.
I'm Math Dad, and welcome to the Geosphere.
Welcome, everybody. We are going to dive right in now to our lesson and talk a little bit more about each of these 4 elements because our planet is fascinating and you can't study Earth science without breaking it apart to look at the atmosphere, the geosphere, the hydrosphere, and each of those components.
Yeah, okay, I'm already losing track, so we better go through those more slowly.
All right, so first we are going to talk about the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is really the air. So move to the side, Math Dad here. The air around our planet is a really important layer. And this jar right here that I have is not empty. It is full of air. We breathe air, and that's one reason it's important, but it's also super important for us because it protects us from radiation and it regulates the temperature of our planet.
Could a jar be empty with no air?
That jar could not be empty. If that jar was empty and had no air inside it, it was a vacuum of empty space, it would actually collapse. It would explode inward because this glass is not strong enough to support a vacuum.
Whoa.
But we will learn more about vacuums in a couple days when we talk about the top layers of space.
Okay, so empty jar, atmosphere. Got it.
Air. Air is the atmosphere, not an empty jar.
Oh.
Air. Next, we want to be able to understand the lithosphere. So Earth, the substance that we walk around on, the crust of our planet, that's the lithosphere. And studying the lithosphere is geology. And that's going to be the second portion of our planet. We would not have a place to live without the rocks underneath us. And that's a super important part of understanding Earth science.
Okay, so rocks, lithosphere.
Lithosphere.
There's probably some fancy Greek root to that word.
Lithos.
Okay.
And next we have the hydrosphere, which is incredibly important. And Math Dad, I bet you know what hydro means?
Water.
Hydro means water. That is right. The hydrosphere is our oceans. And you can see from this picture of Earth behind me, the oceans are enormous and a super important part of life on Earth. And we're going to study the water cycle and how oceans, lakes, and rivers and clouds, how it all comes together to support life. Any guesses what our 4th sphere is, Math Dad?
The geosphere?
The geosphere is all 4 of these spheres together. But we did air, we did water, and Earth.
It's fire. It's fire.
It is not fire. It is the biosphere. It is living things. So in this jar here, I have some plants growing, and maybe you can see them even a little bit better if I take off the light. No, the light's better. These plants are alive. And the living things on planet Earth, all of the living things together, we call the biosphere. And it turns out that life makes a big difference to the other 4 spheres. And the way that all of these interact together, we call that the geosphere. And that is Earth science, the study of all those interactions.
Wow. So Earth science is the study of the geosphere.
The geosphere, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I've got a couple true or false questions for you, Math Dad. You ready for this? About each of these spheres.
I'm ready.
So first, let's go back to air or our atmosphere. And my question for you is true or false? a volcanic eruption could change the climate and the weather for the entire planet for more than 1 year. Is that fact or is that fiction? Could one volcano change the weather for the whole planet for a whole year?
Okay. You've got to learn something here, science mom. So we're here on the moon, and so Earth is huge. Volcanoes so tiny they don't really even show up on this map. So I'm thinking that a volcano is too small to affect the weather on the entire Earth.
Well, Math Dad, you should have been listening to Sonica and some of our other students who said false because, and again, it all depends on the size of the volcano. A big volcano that puts ash into the stratosphere actually can change the weather over the whole entire planet for up to even a couple of years.
How is that possible? What's the ash doing to change the weather?
It is blocking sunlight. So if the ash is up in the stratosphere and it blocks sunlight from getting in, it cools down the entire planet. And we'll talk about this more later on, but there was an eruption in Indonesia back in the early part of the 1900s, and it caused a year with no summer, where there was frost. Yeah, 1800s. There was frost and snow every single month of the year in North America and Europe because of this one volcano.
That's crazy.
So our atmosphere is pretty amazing at protecting us, but also kind of delicate, and little changes can make a big difference.
Gotcha.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, okay. That was just a warm up. That one didn't count. All right, do over.
All right. Our next one, the next fact or fiction, the mantle, the inner layer of our planet.
True. It's the middle layer.
Is liquid. That's the fact or fiction.
Oh.
So you have the crust on the outside. You have the mantle that's usually colored red in diagrams of the Earth, and you have the core on the very middle. Is the mantle liquid? And I guess I should say true or false. Mantle is liquid. Is that true or false?
So if I say true, I'm saying the mantle is liquid.
Yes.
Okay, so I know about the 3 layers. I know the mantle's the middle one. I think the core is liquid, and I think the mantle is solid. Although then what's the difference between the layers if that's actually the case? That's a good question that you ask, and I'll save that answer for later. I'm going to go with solid, which I say is false. False.
You are correct, but I think you just got that by luck, Math Dad.
What?
So, this one's a little bit tricky. Ibrahim was 100% correct in saying that it is semi-liquid. It is not liquid. It is what's called a plastic solid. So just like a piece of paper, is this a liquid?
No, it's a solid.
No, this is solid. This has a defined shape, but can I bend it? I can. And the mantle is the same way. It is solid, and it's a very, very hot, solid rock, and it can be bent and it can move. Areas where that mantle melts, then they call melt. And that's what then feeds, volcanoes and other things, where it actually does melt into magma or lava.
Okay, so the mantle is solid, but it has...
super hot, and it is plastic. It can move slowly over time.
Okay. Wow. That's kind of a weird answer. So it's a weird solid.
Yep. It is a plastic solid.
I'll take it. All right.
Next question. Water can break rock. Is that true or false? Fact or fiction?
Water can break rock. Well, if you throw a rock at water, I think the water breaks first if water can break.
But can water break rock?
But can water break rock? You ask a good question. If I throw water at a rock, it's got to be erosion. So the answer is going to be true.
Yes, water can break rock, both through erosion and through freezing too. If there's a crack in the sidewalk and water gets down in there and then freezes, you've probably even seen sidewalks crack by water and ice freezing and splitting a crack apart. So
yes.
Water can definitely break rock. All right. Our next one has to do with water, this incredible hydrosphere right here. And its statement is this: there are 2 tons of dissolved gold in the ocean. 2 tons of gold. And gold is heavy. A ton of gold is a lot of gold. And is it true that there are 2 tons of dissolved gold in the ocean?
If there were that much gold in the ocean, wouldn't we just go get it and then be rich with lots of gold?
But if it's dissolved, it's like spread out. Like
Oh,
just,
so that would be a little harder to gather.
like an atom here and an atom there.
Yeah. The ocean is massive. It's just huge. And pretty much you name anything that's in the ocean somewhere, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to say true.
It is false because there's more than 1 million tons of gold in the ocean.
Well, wouldn't that make it true then? Then there are 2 tons?
Okay, I guess, yes.
Okay, I'm taking credit for a correct answer. Wait, how much did you say?
More than 1 million.
1 million tons of gold in the ocean?
Yes.
I am going to be rich.
You are not going to be rich because it is so spread out. There is about a gram, and a gram of gold is a pretty small piece. There's about a gram of gold for every 1 million tons of water. But there are so many million tons of water in the ocean that it turns out there's more than 1 million tons of gold in the ocean. But it is so spread out. There's no way that you could go and filter all of that gold. People have tried. There have been several attempts to say like, oh, if I could just filter seawater, then I could get these really rare ions, things like gold or other metals. But it's too difficult.
Oh.
They're way too spread out, and you can't filter that much water.
Darn.
But that gives you some appreciation for just how big our oceans are, right?
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, look behind us. The globe is mostly oceans. So.
It is. All right, next question, or next statement. All oxygen in our atmosphere comes from living things. Is that true or false? All of the oxygen in our atmosphere, does it come from living things or not?
Okay. I happen to know about this cool thing called photosynthesis, where plants make oxygen for us. But are there other sources of oxygen? So yes, living things do make oxygen, but do non-living things make oxygen? I don't know what would do it. So I'm going to say, I don't remember how it was worded. The only living things. Was that true or false?
Yes, true or false. All the oxygen in our atmosphere comes from living things.
True.
It is false, but most of the oxygen does come from living things.
Oh.
So almost all of the oxygen in our planet did come from either algae or plants. It came from photosynthesis. But there's a very small amount that actually comes from radiation from the sun hitting the upper layers of the atmosphere and splitting water apart. But it's a very, very small amount compared to what plants and algae do. So that one was kind of a trick question, Math Dad.
Yeah. You got me.
And our last question, Earth is a sphere. Is that true or false?
Ooh, I know what a sphere is, first of all. A sphere is like a ball. So you get all these points that are equidistant to some central point. Okay, so is the Earth a sphere? Well, if you look behind us, it looks like a sphere, but there are mountains sticking up. So it is not a sphere. This is false.
It is false, but not because of the mountains, really. If you look at the scale of the Earth, how big it is, the mountains kind of smooth out as just tiny little irregularities. It's not a sphere because the center bulges outward. It's what we call an oblong spheroid. It's mostly round and spherical, but from top to bottom, it's a little bit shorter than it is from side to side.
So is it something of a bulge around the equator?
Yes, because of the way the Earth spins, it is wider around the middle than it is from top to bottom.
Wait, is that like when you're on like a merry-go-round and it starts spinning fast and you feel yourself being pulled to the outside, like centripetal force?
Yes, exactly.
And it's making the Earth fatter?
And it makes the Earth a little bit rounder around the middle, yeah. Now, this has some cool effects with how our planet works. We're going to be diving into each of these topics in a lot more detail. So the first section of our course is all about the atmosphere and weather. And then we're going to dive into geology and then into the hydrosphere. And along the way, this is not a biology course, but the living things on Earth have such an impact on our planet. We will be touching on some of those things along the way, but the main focus is the atmosphere, the lithosphere or geology, and then the hydrosphere, our water systems. And that's just a taste of some of the awesome topics that we're going to be covering in this course.
Okay, I am excited for this. I apparently don't know too much about it here, but between me and the chat together, we're pretty smart. So
this is true. Our chat is pretty smart. I want to share 3 tips with you for how to get the most out of this class. And then we're going to talk specifically to our registered students about the chat and about how the format of this class works. So tip number 1 is to be sure that you download the notes and use the notes. We have an answer key for you that goes along with the notes. And if you will look at the pages before class starts and look through and read it before we actually come and go live, you will definitely learn more. So before we have class on Wednesday, if you'll pull open, I believe it's pages 6 and 7, and read through and maybe try to even fill in the blanks a little bit, you will definitely learn more than if you just come to class. So that's tip number 1.
Well, and I've just got to add to that that's true no matter what you're learning. You want to read about it in advance, because that way during class you might have that aha moment. Whereas if you're just hearing it for the first time and just processing, and you haven't done battle with these ideas in any sense, you're much less likely to remember the new information that came your way. And you're certainly not going to just have that amazing aha experience that you could have if you'd prepped a little bit more.
Definitely, definitely. And then tip number 2 is especially for our live students. Chat or not, it's totally up to you. And if you want to hide the chat, if you think it's distracting, right there's a button, and you just click on that and it will hide the chat. Tip number 3, and this is for everybody, we hope you will do our art projects and science investigations, because you will definitely learn more if you make it hands-on. So here's our climate zone quad drama we'll be making in a few weeks. And if you will participate in those, you will definitely learn more. So those are 3 tips I have for you to get the most out of class. And the other one is to participate in the polls. You know what I just realized, Math Dad?
What?
I should have said there were 4 tips, not 3.
Oh, I'm the numbers guy. Math Dad does the numbers. Science Mom does the science.
Every single class period, we are going to have some poll questions. And although the little quiz that I did with Math Dad was fun, and you could have been participating along and saying like, ooh, I do think there's more gold than that in the ocean, it's even better if you can actually click and you can answer a poll. If you have trouble getting item pool to work, you can also just say it out loud. But we hope that you will each time go to itempool.com. And if you're watching the replays on our website, then you can just click under the link and it will take you so that even when you're watching the recordings, you can participate in the polls.
Yeah.
And for today's polls, we have some special and kind of fun questions just about the chat. So let's talk real quick about the chat before we get into our polls, so that then you can practice doing our questions. We have a couple rules for our chat, and we have some moderators. And the first thing I'm going to do is introduce our moderators, then I'll tell you the rules. So first, we have Science Mom Amber. And lean this way, Math Dad. Science Mom Amber is from West Virginia. She loves history, absolutely loves and adores Star Wars, and knows everything about the Star Wars universe. She has 3 kids, 3 cats, and 1 dog named Carl, who is very cute. And then Science Mom Jamie is from California. Science Mom Jamie loves to run. She's a film historian and teaches film at a university, is a professor. She loves sewing and reading as well, especially science fiction. Next, we have Science Mom Jody and Science Mom Krista. Science Mom Jody on the top is a high school Latin teacher, was a high school Latin teacher in previous vocations. She has 3 cats, loves to paint and loves rocks, and she is a writer. Science Mom Krista is a mom to 2 boys. She's worked as an elementary school teacher. She loves everything watermelon flavored. And last but not least, watermelon is great. Science Mom Liza lives in Nevada with her husband, 2 kids, 1 cat, 4 guinea pigs, and a frog. She loves drawing and being outdoors. These are our excellent moderators. And in our chat, if you are watching and one of our registered students watching live, we have a couple rules we want to make sure you know about. Rule number 1 is to show respect. And you show respect for each other by assuming other people have good intentions. If one of the moderators puts you in timeout, you don't assume that they did that because they were like a terrible moderator and mad at you. You just assume like, oh, maybe there was a misunderstanding. If you know that you didn't break one of the rules. Number 2, no spam. No drawn out long words, no repeated words, because it fills up the chat, makes it difficult to read. Number 3, let the moderators do the moderating. So if you notice that someone else spams, you don't need to tell them that they're spamming. Let the moderators take care of that. Rule number 2 is to stay on topic. And then the last rule we have is no sharing personal information. You shouldn't ask other people for their street address or where they live or their email, and don't give out that personal information either.
That's just good internet safety. Yeah.
It is. It is. And today, slow chat is not on because we forgot to turn slow chat on, but going forward in the future, every class period, slow chat will be on. And Ashley asks, what is moderating? Our moderators are there and they can hide comments or they can put people in timeout if people aren't following the rules, which typically hasn't been much of a problem.
They're also there to answer questions. And
yes,
yeah, because we love it when we see you guys discussing the science and the ideas that we're talking about in class.
And at the end of every single lesson that we do, we will have a Q&A. We will have questions that our moderators have gathered, and I open up a document where they have put the questions in, and we'll answer as many as we have time for. So
excellent. With
having said that, one last thing that I forgot to mention about the chat, and then we will do our polls. So go to itempool.com/sciencemom/live. If you haven't already, this is the link real quick. And we're going to do some polls. One last thing, if someone is put in timeout 3 times by the moderators, then they will lose access to the chat. And to get access to the chat back, you would have to email me. All right. You guys ready?
All right. Jumping over to this camera. So we're headed to itempool.com/sciencemom/live.
And here's your chance to just get familiar with how our polls work and see if you were listening when we were talking about the chat.
All right. So for our first question in live chat, which of the following comments are spam? So if you said, wow, I didn't know that, or wow, or wow, I didn't know that, 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 wow, I didn't know that. So select any of those comments that would be considered spam. So less productive comments. Maybe comments that are designed to take up space.
Yes. Repeated comments, comments that take up space, long stretched out words, those things are all spam. And I'm going to finish and reveal this one real quick. And I just want to point out, because of the potential time delay, if you have item pool open, it might be that the next question will pop up in item pool before you see us talk about it on YouTube. And if that happens, just go ahead and you can answer it early. And don't worry if it closes before you finish.
There definitely is a delay. So that is something that can happen.
Yeah.
Or the poll might close before you hear us say it's going to close. And we're sorry about that. That's just the nature of.
And exclamations of like, wow, that's totally fine in the chat. It's the long stretched out words or the repeated words. Those are spam.
Yeah. You want to keep it clean. All right, so if I'm chatting online, which of these things should not be shared in the chat?
And this is a general question, not just our chat, but really good advice for any time that you're chatting online, whether it's playing video games or, anywhere else.
So
what things are okay to share, and please pick the ones that are not okay to share.
That's right. So your state or country where you live in, your mailing address, your opinion on something, or your email address. So which of those should not be shared? That's the question. I'm seeing 2 categories get quite a bit of votes, and a third, about half as many. So.
Yep. And on the previous one, the answer was A and B and C. I think we might have had the questions marked wrong. We'll
Are you
check
telling
on
me
that.
I didn't mark the question right?
We will check on that.
Yeah. All right. So the answer here, we shouldn't share our mailing address, so our house where we live, or our email address. Those are pretty personal bits of information.
Yeah. Or your phone number.
Yeah, that would also be one not to share. What state or country you live in is probably pretty safe.
Fine. And your opinion is fine to share too. Yep. What happens if someone in the earth science class gets put in timeout 3 times from the moderators? Are they no longer in the class?
That couldn't happen.
Does nothing happen? They'll be in the chat the same as always as soon as they get out of timeout. Or will they lose access to the chat, and the only way to get it back is to email Science Mom?
Ooh. Now I know why you spoke up right before we started the poll questions. All right.
And I'm pretty sure you guys have got this one. This is correct. You lose access to the chat, and you have to email me to get it back. But you were definitely still in the class, can still watch the videos.
All right, so which of these are part of being respectful in chat? Let the moderators do the moderating, not spamming, so no long drawn out words or repeated words, staying on topic, and being kind to fellow students and moderators. Ooh, watching the bars climb. Really is fun to see all the votes coming in. You know what? I think they know what they're talking about here, Science Mom.
Yep, they do. Yep, they do. I'm going to go ahead and finish, even though I know more would probably come in because I'm getting run over by the bars. All of these are part of being respectful in the chat. They are all important parts.
Okay. Ooh, here's one that we probably didn't cover. How do you know if someone is a moderator in the chat?
Is there any way to tell?
So if someone says they're a moderator, or their name is blue and has a little wrench icon, or there's no way to know who the mods are. Oh, the blue bar got me right in the forehead. Oh, it's coming back for more. Oh, ow, ow, ow.
And their name is blue and has a little wrench on it is correct. And I know answers were still coming in, but for this first little practice session with our item poll, we want to go kind of quick.
These were not terribly deep questions that we're just warming up with here. But
yep.
So if you have a question you really want to have answered, what's the best way to ask it?
Every single class period, and this includes this class, if there's a question that you have that you want to have answered, put it in the chat.
Well,
because, oh, I guess I shouldn't give the answer away.
Wait. So should you type it in the chat over and over every 30 seconds? Or should you type it in the chat and put your name afterwards? Like, hey, what are clouds made of? Ari. Or do you type it in the chat and ask one of the moderators if they can answer it? So which would be a good way to get your question answered?
And I see a question right now that I want to answer real quick. Michelle asks, how do you select the polls? How do you get the polls? itempool.com/sciencebomb/live is that link that you see right up at the top
So you'll
here.
open up a different tab, or pull out your phone, or if you have a different device, go to that URL, and that's where you're able to answer the questions.
Yep. If you are watching the recording, then on our website at science.mom/earthscience, you can do the polls while you watch, and it's all together.
And I don't quite have that ready. So down below in the description of the video, I will put the link to where you can do the live polls for today. And options B and C got the most votes, and they are indeed the right thing to do.
Option C is probably our option B is our favorite. You know, just type it in the chat and sign your name, and the moderators will
they can either answer it, or they might just add it to our list of questions.
Yep. But yeah, definitely don't type it in the chat every 30 seconds because that is spam, even if it's a good question.
Okay, this last question involves something called an anagram.
Ooh.
So an anagram for a word or a phrase is when you take the letters and you rearrange them in a different order. So I have 4 options here. Which of the following is not an anagram for earth science? There's only one of them that is not an anagram for earth science. So you take the letters of earth science and rearrange them. There's one of them that you can't get.
One of them you can't get, but the other ones you can. You can rearrange earth science into nice teachers.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is right now.
This is fun.
Although we are very nice teachers. So that
wow.
Kind of a tricky one.
I bet a good strategy is to look for a missing letter. Like maybe there's one letter that's missing.
Maybe.
There's a lot of letters in there though. That's kind of.
Yeah. Like for example.
Oh, how fun.
They all have one S. So that doesn't give it away.
Nope, that doesn't. No. And they should all have one C because there's one C in earth science.
Yeah. No, there's 2 C's.
Oh, there are 2 C's. There is because there's 2 C's in science.
Yeah. Science mom would miss this. Okay.
All right, let's go ahead.
No.
Nope,
give him just a moment. This one they have to really think about. So don't want to pull the plug too early, but yeah, one of those 4 cannot be rearranged to spell earth science. Which one is it? All right, I'm going to reveal the answer now.
Secret chair. Good job.
So is that even true? Secret chair cannot be rearranged to be earth science.
Wait a second, Math Dad. Did you select the wrong answer?
I don't know. I think it's true.
So
2 C's. Now I'm second guessing myself. I think I made this one up, right? I know increased tech works, create inches work, and nice teachers work, but does secret chair not work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Amaya's laughing at you, Math Dad.
I think it has one. It's missing one letter because it's only 10 letters or 11 letters long.
Oh, thank you, Mindy. Mindy says it doesn't have the N.
There's no N. Oh,
There's no N. Phew.
Man. Okay, I didn't know the answer to my own question there. All right.
All right, you guys. I want to give just a couple minutes at the end for some special birthday shout outs and to answer questions real quick too.
Actually, Science Mom, we forgot to show the notes. So that we have been working hard, and by we, I mean mostly Science Mom has been working hard to make a lot of notes. So some of you may have printed them off already, and that's a great way to do it. And
you can also use them electronically. It's a free PDF that you can download, and make sure at the front there's a table of contents, and there's also a supply list. And the supply list tells you everything you need for our 5 art projects and our 5 science investigations.
Yeah. Oops. Wanted to show off so that if you want to see the schedule, so we got the front page, we've got a schedule showing what will be covered each day of class, and we plan to stick to that as best we can. And then after that, there's even a supply list of all the supplies we plan to use.
We do not have an art project or a science project every Friday, but most Fridays there is either an art project or a science project.
Or a game show review, right?
Or a game show review, yes. And our game show reviews, so back here you'll see about every, whoops, I got stuck, Math Dad. About every 4 or 5 weeks, we have a game show review. And those are a lot of fun. Those you'll definitely want to have item pool ready because we have question after question. And Math Dad likes to make it a contest between our students and him to see who comes out on top. And he likes to do a little victory dance if most of the people get a question wrong. And he's going to have an excellent defeat dance ready if you guys get all the questions right, because I know you guys are.
Well, bad news. The chat's going down. You guys can try all you want, but your defeat is inevitable.
You know, I think with you starting off being worried that you missed your own question, I think the chat feels like, oh yeah, they got this.
Hey, I fooled lots of them too, though. So.
All right. Real quick, I'm going to answer a couple questions that came in, and then we've got some birthday shout outs. So do some of the spheres on Earth overlap? From Elisa. That is a great question. And they definitely do. In fact, it's impossible for us to talk about the weather on our planet without talking about both the atmosphere and the hydrosphere, because the water cycle and clouds are such an important part of what creates weather on Earth. Each of the spheres overlap, and they each depend on and influence each other. And that's a big part of Earth science. Yeah,
well, that's a really astute comment, because so much of the reason that we want to study these things is because of how we can affect those others. I mean, we can do a lot of damage to the climate and to the weather over time by not being good stewards. So I like it.
Marine Man asks, what about near the mantle? Is there, the lava and does lava create oxygen in the ocean? And very small amounts. There could be chemical reactions producing oxygen, but most of the oxygen is produced by plants and by photosynthesis. Good question. All right. I have a couple birthday shout outs I want to do really fast. Super happy birthday to Ember, who turns 13 today. Happy birthday, Logan, who had a birthday on January 8th, to Jack Gary, who had a birthday on December 28th, and to Kyle, who turns 6 on this Friday.
Whoa, super exciting.
And I want to, real quick, just say how excited we are to be teaching you guys. We did small group meetups with all of our registered students before class starts, and we have students from more than 8 countries joining us here today. So a special shout out to Christina and Matthew watching from Gambia, Victor in Belgium, Robin in Scotland, Ibrahim from Canada, Jack and Nina from Italy, and so many more. We are so happy to have you here. We're going to answer 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap up for today. But we will be back on Wednesday with a lesson all about air and what you're breathing.
So Jill wanted to know if I wrote the background music for that warm-up video, and no, I didn't.
He was very flattered that,
Right.
that people thought that he had made that. But he is getting better with his guitar skills and practicing frequently. Aeroskis wants to know, what would a mountain of ice be part of the lithosphere or the hydrosphere? And I love this question. When we get into our geology section, we will talk a little bit about ice, because ice is a mineral. And sometimes we like to divide things up into, nice clear containers, like, this is air, this is water, and these are rocks. These are 3 different things. But in the real world, those boundaries are not always so clear. So a mountain of ice is definitely both. It would be both, affecting the lithosphere and part of the lithosphere, but it is made of water. So it's part of the hydrosphere too. Great question.
Really good.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to explore this incredible planet together. Work hard, grow smart, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Goodbye.